The Lost Scrolls, Ep.7, Sodom and Gomorrah, Fire Upon the Cities. The sun bled out across the valley of Siddim, painting the western mountains in hues of violet and bruised purple. Below, nestled in the fertile plains, the twin cities of Sodom and Gomorrah began to glitter. From the hills, they looked like jewels scattered upon green velvet, their lamps and torches igniting one by one, a constellation of human ambition against the encroaching dark. A deceptive peace lay upon the land, thick and sweet as date honey. Echo line, for paradise itself can be a tomb. Within Sodom's walls, the market square throbbed with a feverish energy. Merchants in fine linen hawked spices from the east and lapis from the desert mines, their scales deliberately weighted. A moneylender, his fingers heavy with gold rings, turned away a starving widow for the sake of a single copper coin. Children with ancient eyes played games of chance in the dust, their laughter sharp and cruel. Beauty and brutality danced in the torchlight, their faces indistinguishable. Echo line, where every soul has a price, all are bankrupt. Far from the valley, on the cool heights of Mamre, a lone figure stood beneath the terebinth trees. Abraham watched the sky to the east, a knot of dread tightening in his spirit. He had walked with God. He had heard the whispers of divine sorrow for the cities of the plain. He saw not the glittering lights, but a stain upon creation. He raised his hands to the darkening heavens, his heart a battleground of faith and fear, his voice a desperate whisper, bargaining for the fate of the few righteous souls adrift in that sea of sin. Echo line, the prayer of one good man can hold the world in balance. Two strangers walked the salt-rimmed road toward the valley. They did not carry the dust of the road, nor did their faces show the weariness of travel. A light seemed to cling to their garments, a soft radiance that made the setting sun seem coarse and yellow. The very ground beneath their feet seemed to sigh in reverence. Vultures circling a carcass in the distance suddenly scattered. A serpent, coiled on a hot rock, uncoiled and slithered away into the shadows. They were walking judgments, their silence more profound than any decree. Echo line, for holiness is a terror to the unclean. Lot sat by the city gate, a custom of the elders, but his heart was not in it. The laughter from the nearby taverns sounded like grinding glass. He saw the greed, the lust, the casual cruelty that had become the city's daily bread. Then he saw them, the two strangers, entering the city as the last light failed. A primordial fear, a holy dread seized his heart. He rose, bowing low, his soul recognizing their authority before his mind could name it. "My lords," he pleaded, "do not remain in the street. Turn aside, I pray you, into your servant's house." Echo line, a soul that still sees light is a beacon in the dark. He guided them through streets already writhing with the night's debauchery. In the sanctuary of his home, as his daughters prepared a simple meal of bread and herbs, the stranger's presence filled the rooms with an unnerving calm. It was a silence that felt ancient and absolute, a peace that Sodom had long forgotten. For a moment, Lot felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this holiness could be a balm, a cure. But the disease was not in the walls of the city, but in the hearts of its men. Echo line, peace is a guest that will not stay in a violent house. The calm was shattered by a low murmur from the street. It was a sound Lot knew well, the sound of a pack gathering. It started with a few drunken shouts, then a jeering chorus, then the heavy, rhythmic tramp of many feet on cobblestone. Shadows flickered and danced in the narrow street outside his window, twisting into monstrous shapes. The city itself, a beast of one mind, had scented the purity within his walls and had come to defile it. The murmur swelled into a roar. Echo line, for wickedness cannot bear the presence of its opposite. The house was surrounded. The men of Sodom, young and old, the city's elite and its dregs united in depravity, beat upon his door. Their voices were a slurring, venomous chorus. "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us, that we may know them." Lot, his back pressed against the door, trembled. He saw the abyss of his neighbors' hearts, and it was bottomless. In a final, desperate act of a man cornered by madness, he offered his own daughters to the mob. a sacrifice to protect the divine under his roof. Echo line. Fear can make a father forget he is a father. But the strangers rose. Their eyes, serene moments before, now held the cold fire of distant stars. One reached for the door, his hand glowing with a soft white light. He pulled Lot back inside, as if he were a child. Stand back, a voice like the tolling of a great bell commanded. A light, pure and blinding, erupted from the doorway. It was not the angry red of fire, but the clean, searing white of creation's dawn. The mob recoiled, screaming, their hands clapped over their scorched eyes. Echo line, a single ray of truth can blind an army of lies. The men stumbled away, sightless and confused, crying out as they groped along the walls they knew so well. The night was filled with their pathetic moans. The strangers turned to Lot, the celestial authority now unveiled, their forms shimmering with contained power. "We will destroy this place," they said, their voices leaving no room for doubt. "The cry against it is great before the Lord. Hasten, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here. Escape for your life." Echo line. The verdict is not spoken until all hope is lost. The flight from Sodom was a frantic scramble, a tearing away of roots from poisoned soil. There was no time for heirlooms, no moment for farewells. There was only the harsh grip of an angel on Lot's arm, the whispered, urgent command. "Haste, for I can do nothing till you have come thither." They ran through back alleys, past wine cellars still spilling music into the streets, past homes where people slept, oblivious, in their decadent beds. The city was a ghost they were already leaving behind. Echo line. To be saved, you must first abandon the tomb. Lot's wife ran beside him, her breath coming in ragged sobs. Her mind was a maelstrom of memories. She saw her loom, the intricate tapestry of her life half finished. She felt the warmth of her oven, the smell of baking bread. She heard the laughter of friends in her courtyard. The angel's warning was a sharp stone in her heart. Look not behind you. But how could she not? Her entire world was back there, in the city of her youth, her marriage, her children's birth. Every step forward was a betrayal of 1,000 yesterdays. Echo line. The past is a chain, and memory its lock. As they began to climb the rocky path out of the valley, the air grew colder, thinner. The sounds of the city faded, replaced by the rasp of their own breathing and the dislodged pebbles skittering down into the darkness. They were running from the known into the unknown, from a wicked sanctuary into a righteous wilderness. Below them, the city glittered one last time, a beautiful lie, a siren singing its final song. Echo line. The path to salvation is always uphill. As the sun touched the horizon, the judgment began. The sky did not brighten with the gentle hues of dawn. It tore open, a sound ripped through the heavens, not of thunder, but of creation groaning in agony. From the celestial rift it began to rain, not water, but fire, not mist, but brimstone. A man on a rooftop, woken by the sound, looked up and was consumed. The proud central tower of Sodom, a monument to vanity, was the first to be struck, shattering into 1,000,000 burning pieces. Echo line. The higher the tower of pride, the farther it has to fall. The fiery rain fell upon Gomorrah with equal fury. The city, known for its opulent gardens and fountains, saw its lifeblood turn to poison. The waters of its canals boiled and evaporated in a cloud of steam. The lush palm groves and vineyards that lined its boulevards were instantly incinerated, leaving behind skeletal, black fingers clawing at the burning air. The fire flowed through the streets like a flood, a torrent of pure destruction that sought out every corner, every hovel, every palace. Echo line. When justice is a flood, it leaves no stone dry. The earth convulsed, shaking as if in a fever. The very foundations of the valley fractured and split. The tar pits that dotted the plains ignited, becoming geysers of black flame. The great sea in the distance seemed to recoil, its waters pulled back before a wave of superheated air. The sky was no longer black or blue, but a roiling canopy of orange and crimson, shot through with bolts of sulphurous green. It was not a battle, it was an unmaking. a scouring, the complete erasure of a wound upon the world. Echo line. When heaven weeps, its tears are made of fire. The roar of the apocalypse pursued them. The heat was a furnace wind at their backs. Lot's wife stopped. The command of the angels warred with the love of her life. Just one glance, the voice of regret whispered. She turned. She saw the towers collapsing, the river of fire, and in that instant of defiance, the judgment found her. The firestorm's roar faded. A coldness spread up from the rock, and her skin shimmered, hardening into the crystalline white of salt. Her gasp of horror was frozen in her throat, her eyes forever fixed on the ruin she could not forsake. Echo line. A look can cost a soul its eternity. When Lot finally risked a glance behind him, he saw only the pillar. It stood stark and white against the swirling black smoke, catching the terrible dawn in 1,000 glittering facets. A cry tore from his throat. He stumbled to his knees, the strength gone from his limbs. His daughters rushed to him, their own faces streaked with tears and ash as they understood. They did not speak her name. It was too sacred for this desecrated air. Echo line. Grief is the price we pay for love. They reached the shelter of a cave high in the mountain as a profound, unearthly silence descended. The roaring was gone. There was only the whisper of the wind and the soft, steady fall of gray ash, like a mournful snow. From their vantage point, they saw the valley was no longer a valley. It was a smoking, blackened pit. Where the cities had stood, a strange, lifeless body of water was gathering, thick and oily under the blood-red sky. They huddled together, survivors on a new and terrible shore. Echo line. The quiet after the storm is the loudest sound of all. Dawn broke fully, a clean, sharp light that seemed an obscenity against the devastation. The new sea, the salt sea, lay still and heavy, its surface like a sheet of lead. Lot looked upon it all, his face aged by 1,000 years. He saw the terrible, perfect justice of his God, but in his own survival, in the frightened, living warmth of his daughters beside him, he also felt a sliver of something else. Mercy. A terrible, costly, and inexplicable mercy. The smoke continued to rise from the plain, like the smoke of a furnace, a perpetual offering on an altar of judgment. Final echo line. For in the ashes of wrath, the seed of grace is sown.